Thompson, anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. Brown goes inside. Oh, what a slam from Jaylen Brown. Oh, Pritchard banks in the three at the buzzer. Great in and out dribble. Oh, he set off the smoke detector.
What is up, everyone, and welcome in to your Celtics source, where the Indiana Pacers are heading back to the NBA Finals with just a dominant Game 6 performance. As, I think a lot of us expected, right? The Knicks, desperate at home in Game 5, they get the win, but the Pacers just absolutely control the tempo of this game right from the beginning. And, coming into this game, I thought that the first quarter was going to dictate how this game went. If it was a high-scoring game, or more like, high possession game, the Pacers would win. If it was a low possessions game, low shot attempts quarter, the Knicks were going to win, no matter who was winning at the time. Because that's basically how the series has gone. When the Pacers have been able to get to their high-paced offense in transition and, just running the court at, 100% effort every single play, the Pacers have won. When the Knicks have been able to slow down the tempo and, basically limit shot attempts for the Pacers and limit extra possessions, the Knicks have won. And right from the beginning, yes, it was a low-scoring first quarter, right? Only 25-24 in favor of Indiana. But they missed a lot of shots, so the possessions were high, and which is why I knew the Pacers were winning this game right from the beginning. And, it got close in the end. More like, late or early fourth quarter, but then just the brilliance of Tyrese Haliburton basically got this game to a double-digit deficit and basically stole the show down the stretch. Him and Obi Toppin, which we'll talk about both of them. But, I want to start with just basically the Knicks side of things, right? You have a great season. You don't expect maybe to get this far, right? You play extremely well against my Boston Celtics. The Celtics doesn't help that, they just could not make a shot to save their life and injuries and whatever. But, they've had one fatal flaw this entire season. And that is that their two best players, Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, are elite offensively, right? Jalen Brunson, I think, was the best player in this series overall. At times, Tyrese Haliburton showed some brilliance, and especially in the crunch time, which I guess is really what matters. But in terms of scoring-wise, right, Tyrese Haliburton was brilliant in his playmaking, but scoring-wise, Jalen Brunson was elite. I mean, I think he was possibly the greatest scorer in these playoffs, maybe slightly behind what SGA has been doing over the last couple of games. But they're flaws, right? Those two players are horrific defensively, right? With Jalen Brunson, it's just that he is a small guard, right? It's hard to, be a great defender when you're a 6'2" guard that is being attacked on every possession and you struggle to stay in front of guys. That's the Jalen Brunson thing. Karl-Anthony Towns, on the other hand, he should be a great defender. He has solid, contesting shots at the rim. He does a good job of, getting rebounds as well. The problem is he can't stay on the court because he makes all sorts of stupid fouls away from the ball. Fouls that he should be just not picking up. He should be letting, maybe it's a transition instead of, making some dumb sort of, push in the back or whatever. Just let the guy score the layup because it's just 2 points then. But what happens is down the stretch of a game, you have to be pulled to rest because you're in foul trouble. That way, you're able to play in the final moments of games, right? And in this series, had Carl Anthony Towns been able to play in maybe the early fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter, we could have seen a totally different series because you're not coming into a game where Indiana already has a little bit of a lead and all they have to do is just maintain it to win the game, right? It's so hard. You coming in with 7 minutes left in the fourth, but you're down 9, right? Like, if you're able to play those first couple of minutes in the fourth or in the third instead of sitting on the bench, maybe you're up 9, and then you can take a break maybe later, but at a less pivotal moment, right? And that's been the problem with Towns his whole career, and especially this season. But this game specifically, Tom Thibodeau, he realizes right away that he has to go to his bench, right? He saw that in Game 4 after that loss, or even in Game 4, games 4, 5, and 6 after Indiana went up 2-1. He realized his he had to go to his bench, right? Playing his starters 40 minutes a game just doesn't work against a team that is playing for the long run in Indiana, right? Rick Carlisle at the beginning of the series was like, we're gearing up for 13 days, right? A 7-game series. He knew that eventually, he could tire out the Knicks. And I don't think they got to that point. It didn't seem like the Knicks were out of breath at any moment. But who knows? Maybe in Game 7 that would have happened. The Knicks actually were in pretty good shape coming in. It didn't seem like they were getting outworked in terms of like hustle and whatever, right? It was just basically their inability to just see that next move, right? And I'm talking more on how the Pacers play. Their fast break, get out in transition type of defense, right? And it was not a lack of hustle. It was more the Knicks just, not smart enough to realize just get back instead of everyone crashing. You get back with the guy who's contesting the shot, and then you don't get a full court lob from Tyrese Haliburton to Obi Toppin for an easy dunk, right? I counted maybe 5-6 plays in this game alone where it was a made basket and the Pacers were still able to get an uncontested layup in front of the last Knick defender. Like, how on a made basket are the Pacers beating you down the floor? That was the difference in this game and really this whole series, right? The Knicks are a better team, I think. But when you just don't realize that you have to just maybe step back or like just that one extra play that you make to get back on defense, even if you're not a great defender, the Pacers are not scoring those 25 uncontested points off of turnovers. That was the difference in this series, without a doubt. And we're going to do a full preview of the finals probably tomorrow. And we'll talk about the ins and outs. I think it will be competitive. Obviously, I think the Pacers or the Thunder are going to win in 5 or 6 games, but I think it will be competitive because the Pacers and the Thunder, they play the same style. Like, the Pacers don't turn the ball over, the Thunder don't turn the ball over. The Pacers don't force turnovers the way the Thunder do, right? Thunder are the best defense in the league by far. So it's going to be a stretch and sort of another step up in terms of the defense they're seeing. Obviously, Knicks are not great defensively. I didn't think the Knicks, despite Brunson and Cat being so bad on defense, the defense was not the problem in this game. Half-court defense. It was more the transition that just killed them, right? The Knicks would make, a couple runs and then just a full court lob from Tyrese Haliburton or something and the momentum would swing right back. So just you're making a sort of run, you're getting stops, and it just all goes to waste when you can't just think 2 steps ahead. Let's move on to Pascal. We'll start with Pascal Siakam, then we'll get to Tyrese Haliburton. Siakam, just another brilliant game, right? He didn't have a great game 5, obviously. He was probably the main reason why they lost that game. Just really poor shooting, whatever. One of his worst ever. But Siakam in this game just being super physical, right? 10 of 18, super efficient, 31 points. He just provided, the attention was obviously on Tyrese Haliburton full game. And so Pascal Siakam's ability to get into the paint, to stop any sort of run that the Knicks were making by just being physical, matching Karl-Anthony Towns' physicality on one end by doing the same on the Knicks' weak defenders on the other end. And he took what was, I would say, a okay scoring-wise night from Tyrese Haliburton and just took it to another level because he made up for the scoring difference and he allowed Tyrese Haliburton to do what he does best, which is the playmaking, which, we'll talk about right now. 13 assists for Tyrese Haliburton, right? And we talked about this after Game 5, but it seems like with Tyrese Haliburton, he's one of those guys who needs his scoring to help his playmaking, his facilitating side, right? It seems like when he struggles to score, he also struggles to make plays for others, right? Teams that he uses, right, the threat of scoring to be able to make passes. I think he should always be a threat to score, even if he's having a low efficiency night, which is why it's sort of confusing. It's understandable for some players why, if you're unable to score, maybe players sag off of you and it makes it harder to make plays past the ball. But a guy like Tyrese Haliburton, who should always be considered as a good scorer, which I think he is, it doesn't make sense why, even if you're having a bad night, it's not like anyone's just going to leave you open still because you could get hot at any moment. So it feels like, you should still be able to get enough, focus on you that you're able to make plays for others. But that just didn't happen in Game 5. But definitely happened in Game 6, right? 21 points, 9 of 17. So not super efficient, but efficient enough that it didn't take away, right? 17 shots, not that much. Not that many attempts. 13 assists. He was dishing out the ball at a ridiculous level. Some of these plays, just the no looks behind the backs, the, threading the needle to a guy like Obi Toppin or Pascal Siakam for a dunk. He wasn't forcing up shots until that last one, which was just a heat check to win the game. He hit I think it was like maybe 30, 35 feet in Cat's face to seal the deal. I think the game was already over by then, but, he, just to show off, with, celebrate them going to the finals, he hit this ridiculous deep three. But, enough of that, right? Tyrese Haliburton and what he was able to do as a playmaker. That's what he's known for. He's a superstar, not for his scoring, right? He can put up numbers, but he had a lot of games this season where he scored 10 to 15 points, right? Which is not a superstar scoring number points, right? That's really low. But the 13 assists led the league in assists again. That's what he does. He just makes plays for others like no one's business. And he did it again tonight. What else in this game? Right, obviously, we're going to do a full preview show, so I'm not going to get into the Thunder side of this, right? As I mentioned before, um, Obi Toppin, just some brilliant sort of backdoor dunks. Catching his defender sleeping, lobs from Haliburton. Right, as I said before, that he he had a. I mean, some of these dunks, he was flying. I mean, he got up there for some of these slams. There was one where he had to like reach down and grab it and then bring it back up again because he was so high above the rim. Like obviously he's a former dunk champion and whatever, so there were some special dunks out there. You know, there is this. I will quickly say this about the Thunder and Pacers. Right, they're both low or sort of small market teams, right? They're not very well known by the rest of the world. And there is some, I wouldn't say criticism, but there's some worries that this finals isn't going to get the same rating that maybe a Knicks Lakers or Celtics Lakers kind of finals would get. And that is true. But you look at Tyrese Haliburton, what he's doing for this team, and what SGA MVP is doing for this team and for this league, really bringing back the mid range shot. I don't think there's going to be a big dip in this finals. I think this is a fun finals to watch, even if the gap between these teams is a little bit bigger than maybe a Celtics OKC would have been. But just to wrap it up on this game, we'll keep it short because obviously we're going to do a full show tomorrow. Bench production was another big reason for this this series win, right? You obviously, right, the Knicks for the first 3 games didn't even use their bench, right? Tom Thibodeau starts to use it at the end, but obviously they're not used to playing. They're not key guys for this team anyway. Even if they're playing, they're mostly in for their defense, not for their offense. TJ McConnell, right, continues to be a great facilitator. Right, he didn't score that much tonight, right? Only 3 points and not that many assists, but his presence out there, his calmness, his ability just to start a playoff, even if he isn't making that final assist or scoring. So I just liked their bench. Their bench tonight was probably actually one of their worst bench performances of the series. Right, there was a lot of miscommunication on their defensive end, something we haven't seen much from the Pacers bench. Right, the Knicks were actually able to capitalize on their bench, partly because they often tried to match starters, the Knicks starters with the Pacers bench, right, and that sometimes meant that the Pacers starters were against the Knicks bench for a couple minutes, and that's basically where this game was won. In those, basically the split second where you decide to maybe hesitate instead of rushing back on defense, or you go in for a rebound and it's just a easy rebound for the defensive team and a full court pass for the win, for the dunk. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be live tomorrow night, probably around maybe 8:15. It'll be pretty late. But we will do a full finals prediction, and obviously then throughout this week until Thursday we will do some maybe some film review. Maybe we'll do some different highlights. We'll do some different videos. I want to do a video on Anthony Edwards versus Tyrese Haliburton. I actually think they're pretty similar players. Right, Anthony Edwards is definitely a better scorer, and I think he's he's definitely more developed as a scorer. I do think he lacks some of the playmaking skills, whereas Tyrese Haliburton's not a a tier 1 scorer, but he obviously is brilliant in this playmaking. So I think it actually could be a pretty cool comparison to do that. So we'll do that. We'll do some other videos, maybe a Celtics trade rumor or whatever that comes through. We'll talk about. Still, the biggest one is the Drew Holiday to maybe the Dallas Clippers. Still is a possibility out there, but pretty unlikely. Giannis, right? He wants to stay in the East. Maybe the Celtics try and trade a guy like Brown or White even for Giannis, along with other stuff. You got to probably trade 2 players for one, just so you not just because the players, but because you have to, lower the salary, and Giannis makes a pretty decent salary. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow on social media. Coverage all playoffs long, all summer long. And until next time, go Celtics.
It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything.